Hello. As a part of the launch of our inaugural curated NFT exhibition, Digital Baroque History Meets Algorithm, that will debut the Art Marketplace, we have selected a few participating artists to make the unique one-on-one NFT with a physical counterpart for an interview, and we have chosen Claudia Hart to be one of them. Hello, Claudia.
Hi.
Claudia, as you have been one of the pioneering digital artists working with digital trompe-l'oeil as a medium and creating virtual representation with multi-layered use of technology that take the form of 3D imagery integrated into photography, multi-channel animation installation, performances, and sculptures. Could you tell us more about your practice and also some of your recent works for this year's?
Happy to. So I think what's unusual about me is that I bridge between the physical world and the digital world, and I always have, because I'm older than I look, and I actually was showing work and producing work before there was digital, or there was digital, but it certainly wasn't available very easily. And so I showed my work with Pat Heron Gallery for about a dozen years. I was part of a generation that was called intermedia. So I worked in between media, and at that point it was Super 8 movies and prints and photos and paintings and sculptures. So when digital happened, I fell in love with a particular part of digital. It was the part of digital that makes, that's oriented towards what I call post photography, which means simulated images like 3D, what ended up also being augmented reality and virtual reality, but started as 3D animation. When Pixar came out in 1995 with a Toy Story 1, I thought, oh my God, what's that? It's a combination of a Renaissance painting and a photograph. And I thought the world has turned in terms of the way we make pictures. And it was a real intuitive response. And I was right. And it took about 25, 30 years for that to disseminate into the larger culture. And now here we are because of NFTs, which I'm happy about, although I wouldn't call myself an NFT artist, because what NFTs has liberated is this idea that a digital artwork, which was always the sort of poor family member in the art world, because it was thought of as a commercial medium that was endlessly duplicatable and could never have uniqueness. The idea of the unique thing is a cultural idea, and it comes from the idea of the personal expression of the artist, and as influencing the subjectivity of the artist as combined with whatever thoughts they're thinking about. So it's not just art as autobiography, but it's about the idea of a poet who meditates on profound things, serious things. And so we could never be unique. And NFT has made this possibility of the unique object guaranteed by a contract. Suddenly the art world opened its eyes to us and thought, oh, digital art. But we have been here for a while, and we are a parallel conversation to the conversations that the painting world also has, but we're doing it in our own way. So I think my work is a good example of that.
Now we can go through a little overview of your work, and you can tell us about them as well.
Okay, so this image right here is a piece that was actually, I think it was my first NFT. So it's interesting to talk about it because this piece has everything that I just talked about in it, wrapped up together in it. And in fact, like a lot of my work, it slowly evolves over time because I make things, and then technology moves so fast that I evolve them and update them, much to the irritation of my gallerists, because my works often read like this one is 2017/2021, but I also have works that are like 2010/2021, because the technology changes so quickly. And I want to evolve my work because my work is improvisatory and also has to do with the now. So this work I took from the history. I was invited to do a piece on the history of Club Dada, or on the 100th anniversary of Dada. And I made a portrait, a 3D model of Kiki of Montparnasse, who was the famous model of everybody, actually. It was the Man Ray model, but everybody at that time. She was a muse. And I took all the posters of Kiki, and I sort of put her body in an impossible position, which is what you can do with a digital representation as opposed to a photographic one. I used big data, crunch big data. That's what simulations technologies do. When you make a 3D image, you actually take qualities, data that comes from science, to give the feeling of shadows being cast or space existing. But you also can do very unnatural things with it. So it's both real and not real at the same time. So the images are often very uncanny and have a strange dreamlike quality. So this is an example. I took Kiki and I made a portrait, and I actually broke her neck and turned her head around so she looked like this strange muse. And then I papered her with Dada posters from the 100 years ago. I made her into a kind of strobing Times Square billboard. She flickers and her eyes flicker. So she's this kind of hybrid of old history and new, and ties in the avant-garde tradition and the photographic tradition, because she was Man Ray, the famous historic photographer, maybe one of the first, or the first art photographer. So I'm sort of situating myself. This is also the thing we'll see in all the rest of the images, in relation to famous men in the canon. And I put myself in there, and I sort of rethink what they're doing, and from a woman's point of view. So that's that. Yeah. Now, we left out an important thing, which is, if you go back a couple of images, I made this in 2017, which was the 100th anniversary. And when I was invited to do an NFT, I decided to bring Kiki back and use her symbolically to make a statement, a manifesto of the blockchain. I made my own manifesto, honoring Donna Haraway, who's a famous theoretician and writer who writes about digital technology. And she made a cyborg manifesto when technology was introduced to the larger culture in '83. And I made my manifesto on a few days after Beeple went for $67 million. So I made my feminist manifesto and glued it to Kiki, and that was my first NFT.
Maybe you can tell us also about some other work, such as the green window.
All right, so the green window was also an NFT that I made for a show that was a collaboration with Vellum and Super Rare. And this goes with a body of work that emerged from my last show, a solo show with Bitform's gallery, the gallery that I work with in New York. And that show was called The Ruins. And I actually started that exhibition before the pandemic hit and COVID. And then in the midst of it, while I was making it, we got COVID and Black Lives Matter. And I shifted gears to an extent, and I made a show called The Ruins, which was about obviously the ruins of Western civilization as I felt I was experiencing it. And I adopted, like I did with Kiki, voices of master male patriarchs. And uh, I assumed that voice and remade the work. So this was Matisse. I did a bunch of Matisses as animations. So they are very contemporary, but I took his idea of flattening and this static sense of time and this very meditative space and make sort of translations that are very personal. So it's not a literal quotation. So this was one of them.
Maybe you can also tell us a little bit about your work, Hermitage.
The Hermitage work. Yeah, thank you. All right, so you want to you asked me about the Hermitage. So again, it's the same strategy in everything. So for the Hermitage, I was thrilled to be in this historic museum, and I neglected to say that the work that was the ruins was, I'm a professor at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, although I live in New York. And the art museum, the Art Institute of Chicago, is my playground. And as I mentioned, my history is my subject and my object. And in fact, I was trained to be an art historian many moons ago, but I ended up as an artist. So I'm always thinking about history. And I was so thrilled to be in the Hermitage show because of the glorious history of that building and the collection and everything else. And I researched it because I'm always doing historic research. And I found a movie called The Rape of Europa, using the title, the Baroque, speaking of digital Baroque, the famous Rubens painting. And it was examining how the Nazis went after all the great art collections and stole them. So the Hermitage, like other major European museums, took all their paintings off their stretchers and hid them in the countryside. And there was a very famous photograph, an imagery, this movie documented that process and had pictures of the Hermitage within the movie, photos of these empty frames standing in the Great Hall of the Hermitage. And the show, the NFT show, actually had the director of the museum standing in that same hall and giving a talk, which was empty. No people, like now, streamed, and this very spooky picture of the empty frames. So keeping with my desire to make still lives, which are memento mori, right? Memories of a lost time, using 3D animation with its 3D imaging, which has this real and fake, uncanny, dreamlike quality, no matter what you do with it. I used those empty frames and the elements within those photographs of the Hermitage empty collection, all the museum photographed with all these empty frames on the wall. And I thought how much this also related to NFT, this empty space waiting to be filled. So that was these. I did a few of them with the elements from the photograph.
Claudia, could you, for the last part of this question, could you guide us a little bit through your work, Big Red, that was part of the Proof of Sovereignty for the Christie's show, curated by Lady Phoenix?
All right, so this one again was dealing with the idea of the Matisse, me occupying the master Matisse and reinterpreting. But also what's very important for me with these, as you saw in the green table, was that if a painting, there's this metaphysical quality to 3D. That's what gives it its simulations technologies allow you to slow down time, have many rates of time in the same picture, do things that seem real but unreal at the same time. So I was interested in using the Matisse techniques of flattening, but also having flat space and depth space at the same time. I made these noise patterns. He was very interested in Asiatic noise, but I made not Asiatic tradition of decorative patterns, but I instead made my own language of slowly moving, evolving noise, and make this sort of slow moving time space that is hypnotic and trance-like, and allows, and there you're supposed to be meditating on the passage of time in the ruins of Western civilization and meditating.
Thank you. Claudia, now we understand that one of your most recent drops on Super Rare was collected by the Albertina Museum in Vienna. Could you tell us a little bit more about that event?
All right, that's a great story because it brings into focus the same things we're talking about, the evolution of media and the real and the unreal. So A Child's Machiavelli was actually a series of paintings that I did in 1994 for a show at NGBK, which is a famous Kunstverein in Berlin. And we made a small catalog for it, a tiny little book. I happen to have it here. I didn't know I would, but it's pretty tiny. And that thing was very popular. And in the end, I didn't know I had these. I wasn't planning to show them, but Penguin made this book because somebody gave them that, somebody handed that little catalog over. So they made the book and they were very excited that it was going to be a bestseller. And so the idea that we translated a painting series into a book. So again, this is translating from one medium to the next, oil paintings. But it was a long time ago in 96 when the book came out, and there was no way that people could imagine what became a graphic novel. Like nobody knew there was no graphic novels then. It was an illustrated book and there was no place to put it on a bookshelf in a store. So they gave me an advance. I was very happy to have. And then the book, and I got a full page in the Times with a lot of pictures, and it still didn't sell because they couldn't figure out where to place it in the bookstore. So the book went broke. It went out of print. And about 15 years after that, a company got in touch with me. They wanted to make an ebook. So we animated it, 2D animations using my original drawings. And guess what? They went broke because ebooks didn't happen in the way everybody thought they were going to happen. So again, another media that had to do with representation and, but the same material. Again, 15 years after that, one of young man said, let's republish this because your Child's Machiavelli is so relevant to the ruins, the collapsing Western civilization, and has this perverse, cynical, political take on things. It uses Machiavelli, the Renaissance theory, first political scientist, and his text where he tells kings how to seize power and keep power. And I thought, the publisher thought, Pat Reynolds, this is very Trumpian. Let's bring it back and make fun of Trump. So we did that and put the book out, and the book started selling again. And I thought, when NFTs happen, I thought perfect little NFTs. So I took back those animations I made 15 years ago. I remade them to be more relevant in their structure, and boom, they're NFTs. And I released a couple of them on Super Rare, and I'm going to do a larger project now where I show the paintings, the drawings, and the NFTs with Postmasters Gallery. So there we have a 30-year history shifting from medium to medium, but dealing with this historic figure as it's translated from one medium to the next.
That's super, super interesting timeline. Now, would you like to tell us a little bit about your drop at the Honors Fraser's Gallery?
Okay. So with Honor, I'm doing a project that's called Digital Combines. So that, again, I put on I'm always trained as an art historian. So if the category for what I'm doing doesn't exist, I want to make up a name for it. And so I have worked with the issue of the fake and the real fake, and what's real and what's not real, and what's a model and what's a simulation, and how real is real, and cultural ideas about real. And I want to make hybrids between real and unreal, this uncanny space between the physical and its shadow self in the clouds, its representation, things and their representations. So I made up a term where called digital combines, which I stole from another master of the canon, Robert Rauschenberg, who made also combines of sculptures and paintings as one thing, which was very confounding to people in the 60s when he started, early 60s when he started doing it. And I said, okay, I developed a technique for using digital files in a very weird way, where I rip them apart into layers and spray them in layers of transparency on wood, which I have painted. And so when you see them, the models or the digital images are also made from paintings that I make on models that look like they come out of a game, except I've hand painted them, in this case, looking at Matisse still life. So again, I go in this full circle and I make a unique object from pure spray painted pigment. And then I say, okay, this and its NFT, it's representation, it's digital representation. I remake the thing with a photo of the wood. So it looks pretty much alike, but it's absolutely not alike because it has no physical presence. It doesn't have aura, as Walter Benjamin talks about physical things. And he was right, that physical things that exist in the same way the body does have a magic, special aura to them that a seamless digital image simply cannot have. A seamless digital image has another kind of graphical quality, and a projection is a physical experience, right? It's like light and color, and it's also very magical. So all these mediums become different things. So I took the digital image, made an NFT, and then made metadata, meaning a contract, the smart contract, which is the NFT. I make an addendum to it and say, these two things, this NFT, which is ephemeral and lives in the cloud, and my painting are one thing. And I made a contract for that. And I declared this philosophical statement as my contract and stated that I would disavow either if they were ever torn apart. They are one thing, they're married. And I made a body of work. And for honor, I wanted to show other artists who were working along the same line, because I'm not the only one that within the digital art culture has brought together the physical and the ephemeral, the digital, whether that's movies, animations, still images, into an uncanny singular thing. Projections on physical things. I'm not the only one. And I think because of NFT giving us a legitimacy that's legal, I think there's a whole world of us to discover, and who have played this, not played, where this is our medium, the mix, right? The hybrid form. I think that's what the show is about, that you're doing at For Art. So I'm particularly happy and excited to participate in that. But this is the Honor Fraser one, and these are my works from Honor Fraser. This is actually wallpaper that I made where I sort of rip off Matisse again, and I make a pattern that's trackable. It's augmented reality, so there's a special app, and when you look at it, you can see animation through your phone that's embedded in it. So again, it's all about magic and uncanniness.
I think you very amply inaugurated now the last question, and actually the drop for our inaugural edition, the Digital Baroque, which you can explain actually your whole history about the Alice Project series inspired by Alice in Wonderland, where works from this series have been collected by the Whitney Museum of American Art and presented by I-Beam Art and Technology Center. Could you tell us a little bit more about the whole series?
All right, so that series is a series called based on the Alice in Wonderland, the Alices I call them, and that project has been a collaborative one between me and a composer, Edmund Campion, and Ed and I worked together and have known each other for 30 years. So we're both pioneers in this area of trying to bring the classical canon into digital practice. That we wanted to update things and not to throw them out. And so I think Ed and I started working together, and he's a composer when we were in our late 20s or something. So it's really a long time. And since then, he became the director of the Center for New Music and Audio Technology, which is part of UC Berkeley. And I'm a fellow there, and our stuff gets funded and produced. And so what we were involved in by them, plus others, for example, I-Beam. And we, with the Alices, we I wanted to do Alice in Wonderland because Alice is a story about irrational things that happen in a rational mathematical world. So since my task was to use digital technologies, which can be very oppressive because the software is so rationalistic, to use it in like a painter paints, to improvise with it, to break it, to let things emerge that I didn't know were going to happen from my unconscious, and mix them with a lot of, very specific references that I get from history. Ed composed and I made imagery, and we are so together in the way we work. For example, for the piece you're going to show, his wife is Danielle is a very amazing cellist, and I actually had her with a headset improvising and in an immersive environment improvising with the dancer, so that she would experience the weirdness of VR and make music that expresses that. And we did that for everything in this one that the Whitney bought, which consists of a VR, which you wear with a headset, and a 3-channel immersive projection. I worked with a ballerina and a professional wrestler, who was also my trainer when I was training. Now I'm too old and broken to do that. But anyway, I motion captured both of them, and I merged them into one body. So the character actually steps from male to female as they shift their weight, from the movements of a wrestler to the movements of a Juilliard-trained ballerina and choreographer. And
could we now play maybe a video to see this?
Yes, let's do it. So that is the uncanny Alice world, and from this, let's play it and we can look at it. Well, so from this is Christina's body. I scanned her, and and that's Ed's composition, where he's working with drummers who also use feedback, and he composes, but they feedback on themselves and it adapts. So we're dealing with improvisation, chance, but also very structured, because we're both very skilled. So it's not really improvised. And then I've done many iterations of this, including we will see the I-Beam. I made an opera where I made wearables, very Bauhaus inspired constructed costumes covered with augmented reality trackable patterns. And then I had people on the stage with tablets chasing after them. Do you want to look at that one? Can we go to the...
We can go to the next video as well, yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the next video is, but whatever it is. Oh yeah, that's the VR of the same piece. So that's what you, when you're in the headset, what you experience. And in the headset, you can be in there. You feel your body is in there. And you walk around in there. And a VR experience is like a dome. It's like you feel you're in a sphere. Whereas the 3D projected multi-channel piece, which is like the one we're working with, is a square. It's an old-fashioned perspective idea, right? Geometric and squarish. So I was playing with what is the body experience when it's in a fake dome, and what is it experience when it's the same thing in a perspective classical space, and how people could shift back and forth between those. And the one I previously spoke about was the I-beam opera. So that was, I think, the next video. And this one, you hear Ed's music. And this one, I used the text from Alice in Wonderland, and I randomized it and made some kind of crazy, irrational, even more unexpected story out of the original Alice, and that became our libretto. That's actually me. And that's not me. And we used, I made these constructed weird costumes, and all of that are like QR codes. And as you see, people on the stage had tablets, and I asked them just to do, I didn't rehearse them. So they went around and looked at us. It was sort of crazy because I asked them to stay in their chairs, and because I was afraid they would fall off the stage, but they didn't listen. And we had a crazy event that happened, which is that the audience in the downstage rushed on the stage at a certain point and started grabbing the tablets. And we were projecting in a live stream around the stage box what the people could see in the tablets, which was the libretto text, like there. There you see people looking, and there you see like a Times Square billboard text that they could see, but no one else could see. And so the audience jumped on stage and wanted to see it. And I thought that was amazing because people so much feel this uncanny space of 3D, of VR and AR is a kind of magic, because it is half real, half ephemeral, half physical. And they want that. They want to be part of that.
And maybe we can now show the final video we have, the Alice gift shop.
Okay. And Alice gift shop was at the New Museum and at Bitforms Gallery, where I did a show, which was, I think, in 2015. So we took all those, or maybe it was 2016, but I took the elements from the Alice world, which included fabrics and special ceramics. So actually that's I was thinking about, early surrealism with the ants crawling all over. But they're actually cockroaches, not ants. And I put the body, like when you look through the app, you see this kind of signage. That also is from Alice. And you see this sort of Buñuel surrealism of the insects and the creepy black and white sort of old-fashioned look. So I'm playing with these older things and mashing them up always, and creating this sort of strange hybrid space, which is what the mixture of physical and digital is. It's a halfway space, a hybrid, weird, liminal not here, not there, magical space, which is perfect for art. I mean, that's the point of art. It's supposed to bring us there. So, yeah.
Claudia, thank you so much. I think this is a perfect ending. And thank you for this journey through your fantastic and wonderlandish practice. We look forward to our drop. Thank you.
My pleasure, and thank you. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank
It's
you.
great.